friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chesswise. Today we are going to look at some test positions based on the concept of pawns on same file. So we have discussed about pawns on same file and pawns on the adjacent files. Now I am going to do the final part for both these chapters. We are going to look at some very interesting and I am telling or treating them like a test position, so that we see whatever we have learned so far, whether we are able to apply in these positions or not. So this is the position with white to play, and I would like that you spend time on the position and try to solve it, then you can check with my answer. Okay. So at first it looks like white to play, white should win the game very easily, because see, firstly is going to get the opposition. We have done a very similar position based on opposition when the kings were closer. White king was on a4 and the black was on a7. The pawn is on 5th and 6th rank, so we know if the pawn is taken on the 6th rank, then white wins the game. But what happens here is, we will check with the moves now whether black is able to hold the position or not. So white starts with king a4, good move. King b4 allows kb8. Now black has to comply with the moves based on the last rank only, because moment he tries to come up, it will allow opposition to white. For example, kb7 loses the game because of kb5, kc7, kc5, kd7, kd5, ke7, ke5. Now after kf7, king enters from d6 and then e6, f6 and takes the pawn. Do check out my lesson on the concept of opposition and all the king and pawn endgames. I have repeatedly discussed about this idea. Okay, so here white will win the game. After king a4, black plays the move kb8. Now again same continues. White is trying to take opposition and reach the g pawn. King c8, king c4, king d8, king d4, king e8, and white tries ke4 first. There is another try available. White first tries ke4. Now at first what we feel that this position is losing now, because if ke7 then ke5, kf7 then kd5, white uses the diagonal opposition and penetrates. So kf7, kd5, ke7, ke5, and now this position is lost. After kf7, white king reaches d6. But here what happens? This position is drawn for black because white king is not having the place on f5. So just would move kd8, only move kd8, and white has to just repeat. He has no other move. He has no entry from here. So after move like king f4, black can easily play kd7. So black chooses such a square where white is not able to take opposition. And this game is now easily drawn. To ke4 there will be ke6. Okay, and nothing much white can do about it. Do note one thing: if white loses this pawn and anywhere white king is down, then what will happen? After king into g5, when king g3 comes, then white can still draw the game, because white is able to take the opposition and the king has not reached the 6th rank, so it will be drawn. So after ke4, kd8, now white tries another technique. Again kd4, ke8, and now king c5. And again here black has only one move to hold the game. kd8 allows kd6, kf8 allows kd6, kf7 also allows kd6 also winning, kd5 also winning, both are winning. Here the only move ke7, and black takes the diagonal opposition. Do note that if white plays kc6 trying to enter, then after ke6 his king is getting shouldered. Black has used shoulder charging. Black has taken opposition. He will take the pawn on g5, and we can easily see white king will not reach on g3, and white is the one who will end up losing the game. Okay, so it is absolutely necessary to play kd5 here. But after kd5, black goes kd7. From diagonal opposition, we got the normal opposition. Generally, diagonal opposition is useful only if we can relate and get to a normal opposition. Otherwise, diagonal opposition will not be useful all the time. But it's a very important concept to know. And now see, nothing is possible. ke5, ke7, kd5, kd7, and the position just repeats kc5, kc7, and white is unable to make any progress. The second position here, again it's white to play. Of course, from the first look of the position only we can make out white is somewhat worse here. How I can say? Just by looking the distance of the kings to the respective pawns. So black king is very close to both the pawns and white king is somewhat away. So we will have to ensure that white is not losing the game. So white to play, we are trying to see if white is able to draw the game. So let's see. Now we can use the concept of reciprocal zugzwang. Very easily we can see, and the pawns are on the same line, same file. If the kings are away, ultimately we can get closer to the position related to the concept of reciprocal zugzwang. So if white starts with the move kg6 here, then kb4, and now we see it is already somewhat late for white, because after the move king f5, this is the closest he can get. Black first attacks the pawn. Now king e5 and kc4, and white is on the move. White loses the pawn, and when he loses the pawn, only way to hold the game is to get the king on d2. So this position is losing for white. White's only tries to get the king to d2 when the pawn on d4 will be lost. So white does that with the move kg5, kb4, kf4, and now black has to be careful. King c4 and ke5, and black is in zugzwang. Black king moves and the pawn is lost and black loses the game. So black should play first king c3, and now we saw ke5 loses for white. But after king e3, kc4, it looks like the pawn would be lost now. But this is a draw position because the pawn is going to be taken on the 5th rank. See, if the pawn would have won one rank below here on the 6th rank, then after king into d3, black would have got a winning position. We would have reached position number 2. Okay? But here what will happen after the move ke2, whenever king takes d4, kd2, and we reach the position which is drawn. We are going to reach the position number 1 here. So after ke4, ke2, d4, kd2, d3, now the only move kd1, ke3, and ke1. So those who are new to this position, those who have not seen my earlier lessons, do check out my lessons on the basics of king and pawn, and again position number 1, 2 and 3. Then understanding all this will be very easy. So the position is basically drawn. We have got the last position here. It's white to play, and again we can see white is really struggling. First problem is black king is very close to the pawn, and black can fix the pawn by playing c5. Okay, this position is, I would say, somewhat tricky, and there are lot of variations. So I will try to show you all the variations here, and mainly we will try to understand the logic, how white will hold the game. So the technique is same. Whenever this pawn will be lost on c4 or c5, white will try to give the pawn at a higher rank and ensure that his king comes to c3 when black can take the c5 pawn. So the most logical move which we should start with is the move c5. Okay, we'll calculate that. And there are 3 other king moves which look very logical. So f3, f2 and f1. These 3 are also very logical. So let's get started with the move c5. Those who have seen my chapter based on shouldering will understand quickly that here after king e2, black will cut off the white king's path from f3, e4 to d4, and this king will never make it to the c3 square. So after kg3, see one more time ke3, okay, and now kg2, kd4, kf2, kc5, and the king is miles away from the c3 square. Next move, king will come to c4 or d4, and the king's aim is to reach the 6th rank. Once the king reaches the 6th rank, he will have a winning position. Let's look at other king moves. Here it is very important to get the opposition. Okay. So sometimes what happens, in order to get the opposition, we should try to calculate in a reverse order. So when we take the opposition, from that point we should count how many pawn moves each one has. And we ensure that when the pawn moves get over, it should be opponent's turn to move with his king. So that way we can do reverse counting and understand whether by taking opposition we will get that, or we will not take opposition, will move away, and when the pawn moves are over, then we will take the opposition. So some people call this move kf2 like knight's opposition. Although the term knight's opposition is not very suitable, we should not use that term, but the logic is there. We will come to that move now. So white, if place kf3, see, which is again a very logical move. King is heading towards the square c3. What black will do? Black will first cut off kd2, and now again to c5. We see that king d3, and now king should have been on e1 to hold the game. So if the king was on e1, or even if it was on f2, it would have come to e1. Then kc4, kd2, kc5, kc3 would have drawn the game. But now after kf2, kd4, ke2, kc5, kd3, kb4, white king is falling one move short and he loses the game. So white can play the move now. King c4, king e4. After kf2, note that black will play c5 and take the opposition, and the pawn would be taken on c4, to which white king will not manage on the c2 square. See, king f1, kd3, ke1, kc4, and the king can't reach the c2 square. So ke4, kc3, pawn can't be given up over here, and now c5 forced, and then again kc4. See, the king should have been on e3 now to come to d2, but after ke3, kc5, kd3, only move kb4, king comes ahead, doesn't allow opposition, and there is one pawn move to west, and the position will be winning. So after kc2, the only move kc4, taking opposition, wins for black. The move king f1. After kf1, white is trying to take the opposition. So black does the move c5, snatching the opposition. That is why the pawn moves at hand are very important. Now after king f2, black gets kd2, again getting opposition, and we know after kf3, kd3, pawn will be taken, and white king cannot reach c2. So white tries the move king f1, even then kd3, ke1, kc4, kd2, and white king is one move short. So after kb3, kc1, just king to c3, and black wins the game. Do note that after c4 also, black will win the game because king is on the 6th rank and the pawn is behind it. So after kb1, we can just do c3, and we get position number 1 with white to play, and white loses. Finally, we have the move kf2 here. Do note that the only move kf2 is capable of holding the game. Now the logic is very simple. After the move kd2, white goes for the move c5, and now the black king becomes bit far from the c5 pawn, and white uses that time to reach the c3 square. So after kd3, the only move, see, coming from behind or side doesn't help. ke1, kc4, kd2. Now if kd4, we'll just wait kc2, kd5. Now also kc3 would lose to kc5, kd3, and when king takes the pawn on c5, we do kc3, taking the opposition, and the game will be drawn. So after kd5, kd3, pawn will have to come ahead, then kc3, c4, kc2, kd4, and we keep on taking the opposition. So after c3, kc2, kc4, only move kc1, not allowing opposition, and wherever the king moves, d3, then kd1 cross, and kb3, then kb1, and the position becomes from, we reach position number 1 with black to play here. Black is forced to move the pawn, and the game will become stalemate. c2, kc1, kc3 will be stalemate. Now let's look at the move c5. If black plays c5, this can provide some chance. Now playing king f1 will allow kd2 and then kd3. So white goes ke3, kc2, and again the very important move king e4, kc3, KD5 and KB4. Again white is losing because of the reciprocal Zugzwang. So here white plays the right move KE2 taking opposition, and after KC3 KD1 KC4 and KC2 reaching the position in the previous line, and we know that after this opposition the game is drawn. F2 is the only move which is able to hold the game. Of course, I know this position was very tricky and they are little bit higher level, but practicing these positions over and over again will help you improve your endgame, basics of endgame, and these endgames are universal for everyone. Okay, no matter whatever is the level, endgame theory is fixed, same for a beginner, same for a grandmaster. So I hope you are enjoying these lessons. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.